Right, taking it from the top again. We're gonna do it. Stop. It's a do-over. It is a do-over with Gina. Hey, you guys. All right, welcome back. I had to end my live because everybody was saying it was lagging. So hopefully it's not lagging now. And if it is, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm going to be waiting for my guest to join me. And you guys are coming back in. Welcome, welcome. Make sure you like and share, get more people to join. Where was I saying? I was saying that I'm always here on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock. I've been doing this 2 months now. So you ask me your questions because here I am. You have a matchmaker here with you, willing to give you the truth. No bullshit around here. No bullshit. All right. And I'm also going to say, when it comes to other matchmaker or matchmaking in general, companies make me so mad because they make themselves sound like matchmakers. I was just talking to a guy recently, and he said, I've hired 2 matchmakers. And then come to find out, it wasn't really matchmaking. It was more like a dating service. They weren't screening people properly. They weren't matching people. They weren't, they're just sort of taking people's money, calling themselves matchmakers, and then throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. That's literally what most of them are doing. And that's what they were doing with him. And he wasted, between 2 companies, they didn't charge much, which for high-end matchmaking, it gets expensive, but they weren't charging him much. But still, with 2 companies, he spent $14,000. That is a lot to not get any proper matchmaking. Flushing it down the toilet, folks. So you just have to be careful, and you have to be smart, and you can always ask me, and I'll tell you if I think somebody is like on the level or not, because when it comes to this business, I take it very seriously, and I can't stand people going around saying they're matchmakers when they have their heads up their asses. I'm just going to say it, okay? All right, yep, Talkify is not matchmaking. Talkify is a company that will just take your money and flush it down the toilet and then try to blindly give you dates. The reason Talkify does not show you pictures of your dates is because you buy a certain amount of introductions. And I know some people they let on Talkify for free because they need people to go out with people. But any matchmaking service that's not going to show you pictures, and if you go, I want to see more pictures, they don't show you pictures, it's a scam. It's a total scam because they're selling you on a package of introductions. All right. So why would they don't want to show you the horror show they're setting you up with because you'll say no. So they just need you to go on those introductions so they can check it off the list. And I hate that. And it makes me furious. I mean, furious. I've helped so many women get their money back from other matchmaking services behind the scenes. Because it's just really one of my pet peeves from people do that, Okay, how do you find, so I love it when you guys ask me your name, tell me your name, ask me your question. Tell me your name, ask me your question. And then my guest will be joining me here shortly. Let's see here. How do you find suitable partners for your clients? Do they bring you different people to choose? Do they bring you different people to choose? I'm not 100% sure what that means, but like everybody wants to say Hitch. But Hitch, the movie Hitch, was really, that guy did have, he wasn't really matchmaking. It was sort of like he was just helping people finagle the people they already liked and had on the hook, right? He was just helping them hone in and reel that person in. With me, I find out exactly what my guys are looking for. Oh, he did? I didn't see that. Hold on. Let me find it. So my guest is requesting to join. Let me do this. Here we go. So I accepted it. Here we go. I'm going to do it again. Accept. And hopefully, oh, there he goes. Okay. So here he comes. Here comes my guest. So yeah, I have to follow the marching orders of my clients, my guys. They tell me exactly what they're looking for. And my job is to find them. Evan, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I don't see you.
All right, let's
There you
see. What's
are.
up?
Okay, great. How you
All right,
doing?
I was trying. We're getting used to this, to the joint live.
Yes. And Evan, you guys, is my new friend who I met through TikTok. And Evan, why don't you just sort of introduce yourself and, roll out the red carpet for yourself. Tell them what you're about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've been posting on TikTok for a little under 2 years now. I've coached a lot of men, coached a lot of women, and I go by the handle Performance Potential. I'm sure some of your audience has seen my content before. But yeah, I try to keep like a relatively neutral approach to dating and understand like the sides that women struggle with, understand the sides that men struggle with, and really try to bridge the gap between the two, because I think that there's a lot of people on the internet that really want to pit, one another against each other. And in all honesty, if that's the way you feel, you might not be ready for a relationship anyways, right? Like if you're really, really upset with men, or if a man is really upset with
True.
women in total. So I try to keep a pretty neutral approach to things. But yeah, I've worked with a lot of women. I've worked with a lot of men. So I'm excited to talk to you just
I
about
love it. I know, I'm
a bunch of
excited.
different topics.
Yes, yes, yes. So I figured, what we can do. So we'll do a combo of things. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. You can ask me a question, and then we'll also answer the comment questions, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna toss it to you first, and I'm gonna ask you a question. So what do you think? And you have to, the rule around here is if you're gonna do business with me, you got to be honest, okay? So, and I know you are, you like to keep it real.
Yeah.
So I would say, I'm gonna ask you as a guy, what do you think is the number one thing that women do wrong when it comes to dating?
Okay. Okay.
One
So
thing.
here's the thing.
If
Yeah.
you can nail
Here's
it
the
down.
thing. Um, Chasing unavailable men, pursuing unavailable men, hands down. Because the number one thing that I deal with when I'm coaching, my clients who are women, is there's two or three guys that they're interested in. They tell me about these guys, they tell me about the dates that have been going on. I said, and I know which one they've picked, but I say, tell me which guy is like the front runner for you. It's always the most unavailable guy every time. So it's one of those things where I'm not saying all women do this. I just think that there's this level of scarcity that's invoked in dating when a man is unavailable, because he's conveying this higher value. And because a lot of men are very forthcoming when they find a woman attractive, when the guy in kind of the group is not doing that, he stands out because he's not like desperate, or he's not like begging to see her. And I find that women will stay in situationships for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months. If a guy is not committed to you in a relationship after 2 or 3 months, he's not going to do it. Like, it's
Right.
not going to happen. And that might be an unpopular take, and that might offend some people who are watching, but I'm telling you, if you've let a guy string you along for 6 months and he hasn't put a title on it, he's just using you in the
Do you
meantime.
do you think so? You think it would take 6 months for him to put a title on it? Do you think it would be? By the way, this is, I just like to tell everybody, this is my fake wine. Okay.
Yeah.
Learn not to drink in TikTok. So this is fake wine, just to be clear. So do you think though that like it would take that, would it take 6 months? Why would, here's what I don't understand. And I mean, listen, I know a lot of this stuff, but I want to get your stuff. Um, don't you think if he doesn't know even after 3 months, what's going to
Yeah.
make him change by 6 months?
I would agree with that. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances. Dating a guy who maybe geographically isn't right near you, which, I don't always advise that. I don't think that that's like the go-to play. Like, if you can start dating somebody who's right nearby you, of course, that's going to be a priority if you can do that. And also men who are super busy, but again, don't let that be an excuse, because in all reality, if he is, successfully is very busy, if he really wants you, you will be a priority.
And same
Like
and same
he
with
will
women.
pick up the phone. Yeah,
And
he will
same
pick
with
up the
women.
phone. He'll get back to you.
Like, women will act like, oh, they're so busy. But listen, if it was Brad Pitt knocking at their door, or Chris Pine or whoever, they would not be busy. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. I
All right.
completely agree.
But now you ask me a question, and then we'll start taking some questions from the audience.
Okay. Yeah, I have a decent amount of questions for you. Let me ask you this preference. Would you prefer that I ask you a question about the guys that you work with, or about the women that you work with?
I do not care.
Okay. What would you say is the most common mistake that women make on their dating profiles?
Um, Well, other than pictures, because that's like the first, I would say that women are in this mindset that they need to try to kind of dull themselves down, and they just sort of make themselves sound very generic so that they sort of call in everybody instead of really, they're so nervous to amp up like how amazing they are.
Yeah,
And that's a big mistake.
I would agree with that. I mean, you do definitely want to stand out, especially because that really, I guess you can call a top tier guy, the guy with the most, amount of options. He is going to be much more selective than other guys. So you have to put your best foot forward, whether you're, a man or a woman. Well, I guess the next question I have is, what do you
Oh,
think, like for some of like the really successful guys that you work with, like
yeah.
why do you think it's difficult? I don't want to say settle down, but why do you think it's difficult for some of them to find love?
This is a good question. I think that there, listen, I think people in general, even average people, are ridiculously picky. Now factor in super successful. Talk about off the charts picky. This is why I say I'm in the ridiculously picky business. So first of all, they're extremely picky. They have a lot at stake. Um, and they don't want to make the wrong choice. So, and also with my guys, it's not like they don't meet plenty of women and get access to them. But a lot of times, when, two things. One is their circle of friends, and you know this as a guy, their circle of friends, especially the girlfriends or the wives, might want to set them up with like their girlfriend, their
Yeah.
bestie, but maybe the bestie's not hot enough and they feel awkward. How are they going to tell their
Yeah.
social, like, yeah, I don't really like her. So they feel awkward sometimes getting set up by friends, and they don't know how to be straight with them. And they have a lot to lose. So they like to be under the radar and have somebody vetted and screened. So that's the short answer. No, just kidding. It was a long
Yeah.
answer.
No, I would definitely agree with that. I would
Yeah.
definitely agree with that.
So, okay, so can you see my questions, or are we both seeing the questions? I don't know. What, tell me, you pick a question and we'll answer it.
Okay.
Because I don't know what you see. I don't know.
Let me see. I see some comments. I see a lot of comments from Haley. I see one from Freddie. Um,
And
oh,
we've gotten some
this
brothers.
is an interesting question. This is an
Go
interesting
for, go for
question. Is it better to marry for love or for wealth and power? Well, I think the answer to that question has to be answered by whoever asked the question. Like, there are some people out there, like, if you think about marriage a long time ago, what marriage was actually for was not for love. So if you're somebody who believes that, like, that's what marriage is, some very traditional thing where it's almost this like business transaction, you're trying to marry up, and that's your decision to make. But I think nowadays most people they struggle either in marriage or trying to find somebody to marry because we are trying to marry for love. It's kind of like the hierarchy of needs. People are seeking for that self actualization once they've actually accomplished some of those like lower level. I don't want to say lower level, but more pertinent biological things that they're looking for. So like that love and that self actualization, I think is what most people are looking for now. But I think it's also why a lot of marriages fail because when you're with somebody for a decent amount of time and that lust is gone and maybe you get really nitpicky on each other, you feel like you don't love each other as hard anymore when in reality, like it's never going to be just as fun as it was the first year. It's never going to be as exciting.
I think people should marry for money and power. No, I'm just joking. I know that would get their attention. Kidding. Uh, I think, come on. I think you should absolutely marry for love. I think that the bottom line is, though, marrying for money and power. I mean, there has to be love involved. Otherwise, that's. I just don't see a long, happy road. Otherwise, do you know what I
I
mean?
agree completely. You're going to like resent the person if you don't actually like them for who
Absolutely.
they are. This is another good question.
Okay.
I think this is a really good question. I like this one. Do affluent men choose partners based off a checklist of accomplishments or compatibility? So, absolutely not. Successful men are not looking for women who have checkmarked every box in business. That's not, it's not that they don't care, but they don't. Like,
Wait, say
that's,
that. I heard the question, but I want to understand
yeah.
your answer, Evan.
My answer is that if you're trying to date a super successful man and you're a woman, he's not looking at you saying, "Have you done the super successful things that I have done?" He's looking for compatibility. He's
Well,
not necessarily looking for another.
another him. Yes, you're right. Define compatibility, though.
I mean, compatibility would be more of like your personalities fitting together in my mind. Whereas like a checklist of accomplishments is like, wow, I'm super successful CEO woman, and I'm super successful CEO guy. Guys, I mean, some men like that, some men don't, but it's about personality. It's about the personality traits that go into accomplishing those things. That's why a lot of women are attracted to very successful men. Part of it's money, but the main part of it is the mentality and the personality traits that go into becoming someone who's really successful, like
So
confidence, things like that.
I can tell you the reason somebody asked this question because they know how I will answer it, which is opposite from you. I mean, I'm not going polar opposite from you, but I will say in my world, and it's what I've learned from my guys, is that they do want like accomplished women.
Yeah,
They
they
want,
don't want somebody 6 steps behind them.
no, they want somebody who, like one billionaire that I had worked with for a time, his whole and I was setting him up with women who had graduate degrees and they were beautiful and everything. And he'd be like, Gina, Well, I'll talk about two billionaires in particular. And this one guy, he's a self-made billionaire. He was like, Gina, what is her biggest accomplishment? And that is what he would say over and over again. He's like, because he really wanted some, like, did she compete at the Olympics? Did she, whatever, I don't know, whatever. Listen, I have a very hard job, but he absolutely wanted someone, and he's not unique though. A lot of my guys, especially like my other guy, he's also a billionaire, younger guy. He would always say to me, so Gina, what makes her exceptional? And I'll be like, oh, she's phenomenal. She's so great. Yes, Gina, but what makes her exceptional? What makes her exceptional? And I was like, it's like, I mean, and so they just get extra picky. So when you're talking about that level guy, they do care about more than just like, oh, are our personalities going to mesh? They do want somebody who is a high achiever, somebody that they can be proud of, so that when they go to these huge functions or they're in the media, their person is substantial that they have on their arm.
So, do you think I definitely would agree? I would agree to the extent that nobody who's a very successful person wants to feel like they're with somebody who's like 12 steps behind them. Because if somebody who's really successful is looking for somebody who is just super agreeable and like a good
Right.
personality fit, he's probably looking for a doormat, which I think a lot
Totally.
of,
He wants
rich men actually
totally.
are because they're
Yeah.
just looking for a woman to listen to him. I think a
Yep.
lot of guys fit in that function. But I will say a lot of the women that I've coached, especially in bigger cities, like when they've dated these richer guys, maybe they fit into the bucket I just mentioned. When they've dated these richer guys, more successful guys, it's like they really want a woman who's just going to listen to them. Like they really want a woman who's just going to kind of go along with what they're saying because other women will. Like the women who are on his boat, the women who are like going on dates with him on his beck and call, like they listen to him. So if these kind of guys who have this like very egotistical mindset, which I think can come hand in hand with some super successful people, I feel like that can be they can be competing personalities, is what I'm saying. I don't know. I guess it's like different, like could be different strokes. Like maybe somebody who is seeking out a matchmaker would also be more agreeable in finding somebody who's on the same level as him when it comes to accomplishments.
Right. I mean, listen, I feel like, and people will tell me over the years, like, Gina, I set up 3 friends. I got 4 friends married. And it's like, that's awesome. But it's a different world when somebody's not paying you to do the job, right? There's no
Yeah.
pressure. They come to their friends with a checklist. But when somebody's paying you, and especially at the level that I'm operating at, it's like they want everything on the
Oh
checklist,
yeah. They
it's
want everything that they can get.
Yes, but I do find now this is an interesting observation. Tell me if you agree with this or not. I don't know. Maybe this isn't true, but I just feel like those men that like maybe they're tall, but for some reason they like really petite women, like really short women. Don't you feel like there's like some sort of control thing there?
Hmm.
It's just a theory.
Potentially, and I've also met a lot of really short women that really like a lot of like big tall guys. I think maybe it's
Well,
kind of this like
listen, Evan, we know why that is. It's not control.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think that there might be some kind of like dominance thing going on there.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a question. Ba, 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 ba. They like
Lil
little.
Oops goes, duh, it's hot. I will
Okay.
say
Oh
I'm really tall and I don't necessarily prefer like super short women. It's not like a big thing
no.
for me.
Most tall guys I know prefer tall women. At least that's in my experience. They do.
I'm
They
indifferent. I'm kind of indifferent on that, but I would agree that like some
you
guys
are
like tall guys really like short women.
I also want to say you are particularly a young man here. 29 years old, ladies, by the 29.
Oh boy, she's raffling me off.
Yes. Come and get him. How tall are you, by the way, Evan?
Nah, I can't say it. It can't be stirring up controversy in the comments here.
Okay. So here we go. Give us a question. Can we confirm if Evan is single? Somebody's asking.
Oh God. Yes, technically.
Uh-oh. What does technically mean?
Yes, I'm single.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Stephen. Hi, I'm 60. What would be a good first date other than dinner? Well, okay. And here's Evan. Tell me what you think about this. Okay, so here's where I think men make the mistake with planning dates. Men tend to, and I don't know why they do this, they pick things to do that they want to do. A good first date is to ask her what she wants to do and then do that. How do you feel about that theory?
See, I might have to disagree again
That's
here.
fine.
And
You
and
can
the
be right.
reason why that is, and this is just from my own personal experience, and and I've actually like it's interesting since I've been on TikTok, I've paid attention to a lot of videos, and I've learned a lot about a lot of women actually, like a lot of women who DM me stuff that concerns them that I never thought about. And one thing I hear a lot from women is women who want a guy who's a leader, they want him to be decisive and pick the damn place.
Well, I
But
know,
it
but
has to be
yes,
interesting. It can't be boring.
but Evan, what I'm saying is he still at least, yes, make a plan, absolutely, but but be clued into what she likes. Like, don't pick your favorite food. Like, hey, we're going to go to a Chinese restaurant because it's yours. You need to ask her what she likes.
Sure.
Well, what are her favorite foods? Well, do you like art gal? Like, hopefully, when you're on, I talk to people, it's like whether you meet in person or whether you meet on a dating app, you should be doing some sort of call before the date, right? It's a call to pre-qualifying calls, what I talk about. And on this call is where you kind of want to get to know each other. Like, what do you like to do for fun? And if I tell you, Evan, that, oh, I love art galleries and, da 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 da, and then it would be very cool if you said, hey, you know what, Gina, I looked up and there's like a cool art show happening on Friday night if you want to go. I'd be like, let's do it.
I think the most important part there is having a conversation on the phone or FaceTiming before the date. Especially if you've never gone on a date with this person before, I think it's really important to get familiarized. So the way that I would do it as a man is I would have a couple different places in mind, like after understanding what she likes, and I would say, hey, we're gonna go to blank and blank on this day. Does that work for you? So it's an
Yep.
assumptive question. I'm not saying,
Yes.
hey, what do you want to do today?
Oh,
Because like a lot of women in the comments right now are like, I want him to do it. Like lead, I want him to do it.
but I'm also going to give you guys another scenario that I think that I disagreed with the girl on this because so basically this guy was asked her out, but he was new to the area. He was coming to her,
Yeah.
but completely unfamiliar with the area. So he said to her, hey, do you have a place you like? Do you have, because he needed somebody to throw him a bone. And I do not think in that moment that is saying, I don't think that's any indicator on whether he's going to be the man making the plans or not. I think sometimes we need to like throw somebody a bone. If you're coming to my area, I don't want you to like figure it out. And then you're asking me, hey, Gina, I'm unfamiliar with the area. Do you have a place? Sure. I'm going to suggest my favorite restaurant.
And there should be an open dialogue where that's okay. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of instances where people are living by these very hard rules of how things have to go all the time. But in that instance, like if somebody's new or they're coming into town and he is going to ultimately pick the places, he's going to pay, he's going to do all these things. It doesn't hurt to say like, how do you feel about like blank and blank? But I still think ultimately the guy is he should just pick the place, pick the time, or give her an option of like two different options. Like I'm free Thursday at 7 or, Saturday at 7. Which one works better for you? I want to go to blank and blank. And that's what I teach my men to do. I teach my men to be decisive about things. Now, of course, if you have more intel and insight on what she likes, that's going to lend you a better chance of like doing something like that. But in my mind, the bottom line for first dates is they shouldn't be boring and they shouldn't be overly predictable and they shouldn't be low effort. So here's basically what I tell the guys that I coach. I think that if you met somebody in a dating app or you barely know them, you have one conversation. This is not necessarily like if you've been like set up by a matchmaker where the date is, I don't want to say higher stakes, but it's just different scenario. Like I think if a guy and a woman meet on a dating app, I think the first date, a perfect caveat between dinner and drinks is a wine bar where you can get food,
Yeah.
you can have
I
wine. I
agree
think
with that.
wine's a great
Yeah.
first date. I think there should be a second part to the date. The second part of the date could be some sort of activity that doesn't embarrass you, doesn't make you super sweaty, doesn't make you whatever, and it evokes some kind of teamwork or competition, one of the two. Because in
I don't
my mind, it's gonna. Well,
know.
I promise you, it works. I would guarantee
Nine.
you, it
What
works.
nine?
You say?
I mean, I don't know if any like 50-year-old man's gonna go, come on, Gina, let's compete. Like, what the hell am I gonna be competing? What kind of competing are we talking about? Em?
Well, it depends. You could go somewhere. You could throw darts, axe throwing, cornhole. Like, do something interesting, like
I
an
like pinball.
activity in the future. As a guy, if I'm going on a date and I'm proposing, like I'm picking the place, taking the lead, paying, doing all
Yep.
this stuff. If I like plan out like a decent night of a couple different places and something I find interesting and she's very standoffish and resistant to that, I don't want to date you. So I'm just going to move on
Yeah, fair enough.
because I'm a guy who like I want to take the lead. If I want to see you, I want to
Totally
see
agree.
you. I want to plan it out. And if you're not cool with that, I will find a woman that is more interested in dating me. Like I
Yeah,
don't need to go through all these, jumping through hoops if she's not interested in going on a fun date. Like it's not my problem anymore.
totally. This is interesting. I had a woman who's in my coaching, and yeah, this is an interesting point. I think you and I together would do really well for the coaching. We'd really have them super confused. No, I'm just kidding. But no, so she had a date planned with this guy, and listen, she's like a sophisticated, older woman, like almost 50, and very successful and everything else. And seemed as well, but he wanted to go to like Dave and Buster's. Like he didn't even want to go to a nice dinner first. He literally wanted to go to, it was sort of like a Dave and Buster's. You know what those are? Like a putt kind of place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she was like asked me like, how do I handle this situation? Because she didn't want to go to Dave and Buster's, you know what I mean? Like a first date. And I said to her, well, why don't you say, that could be fun, but why don't we go grab dinner somewhere first? Do you know what I mean? And then he was like, oh, well, they have dinner there at Dave and Buster's. Now, how do you feel about all that?
I yeah, that doesn't sound like a very fun date. I definitely wouldn't go. I agree with you. I wouldn't go to like a Dave and Buster's, but I agree with what she did, where she was kind of not into that, and she's like, "Hey, why don't I propose something different?"
Right.
I
And
agree with that. Like
ultimately, the
if
date
somebody,
didn't happen. He kind of just ghosted at that point.
but also like from her perspective, like if he's planning a date that's like not fun or kind of weird, like I would agree with her saying, and it's a very polite way for her to do it. Like, hey, what, like that sounds fun, but like, have you thought about doing like X, Y, Z? Like, I think that's a very respectful way to do it for
Yep.
sure. If it's something that she doesn't want to do, you might as well just tell the truth and say you don't want to do that.
I don't think technically, for those of you who are saying Dave and Buster's, it wasn't technically Dave and Buster's. I forget what it's called. It's in Florida, and it's something like that where you play putt putt and you do games and whatever. I don't know. I forget what it was called. But okay. So do you see a question, Evan, you want us to tackle? That way I don't have to put my glasses on.
Yeah, let's see. It's funny because there's so many different thoughts in the comment section. Like some people are like, I love activity dates. Some people are like, I hate activity dates. Some people are like, teamwork, yes, competition, no. Wine bar, maybe mini golf is a good idea. Putt putt. Um,
All right, bye,
we have a
Evan.
lot of.
Send us likes. Make sure you share this thing. Give us, the hearts and roses and whatever, the rainbows. Do all that for us, please, by the way.
Let's see. We have so many different opinions here.
People should stop. Somebody says people should stop being picky about locations. I don't know that is actually. I don't think that's true. I think a location that somebody picks is very telling of compatibility. Because if you pick someplace, Evan, that I actually do not like, I think that is very telling of how compatible we are. Don't you?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's okay.
Even the age difference. I'm just kidding.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I think that's okay too. Like, if somebody really wanted to do something on a date that the other person didn't want to do, but it was something that the other person was really passionate about, then maybe you're not compatible.
And thanks for the roses. Thanks, thanks, thanks. Big thanks.
So I guess
So
my question too, because I want to know in the comments. There are a lot of people that are like, I like activity dates. There are people like I don't like activity dates, and then I think I'm curious of what people's opinion are of like, does the first date mandatory have to be dinner? Because that's a question I hear a lot, and I think that there are a lot of people that would say that is the case. Now,
Top Golf. It
like,
was Top.
do you think there should be like a second portion to that, or just dinner and then get out?
I think. Well, so if we're talking about how I do it for matchmaking, um, I set people up for dinner, and they go on dinner, and I say to them, here's what I also say, right? I would say go. I say go to dinner and don't talk about a next date, because I find so many people go on dates, and the guy might be reading the woman wrong and talking about a second date, and she's going, uh-huh. He walks away thinking, oh, good, she likes me, we'll go on a second date. Unfortunately, this doesn't really ever happen in my world because my people are perfect. But I still like to make people feel safe and not like cornered if whatever. And so I don't want the women to say, oh, let's go out again. I don't want the men in that moment. They can afterwards, because we're in a different world when I'm doing it. They text me, they both let me know if they like each other, and if they do, then I connect them because they don't have phone numbers or anything prior. But I usually always coordinate the first date for dinner. I say, go have a good time, don't talk about future, just come back to me and let me know if you how you felt about each other. And if you both say yes, I'll do the numbers, and then they're off and running. But I will say there's one of my younger clients, and I kind of want to say something to him about this, although the girls may not mind. Maybe it's just my thing, but usually for a second date, a lot of times he will plan a hike. And he's younger, but it's like I feel like he does a hike because he likes a hike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you feel about hikes?
I give a thumbs down to hikes.
I
Now
agree.
I know some of the ladies are getting fired up right now because, like I say, activity date, and I'm not saying you're going to the gym, running the treadmill, or like breaking a sweat. I definitely don't think in the first couple dates you should do anything that really makes you like sweat or
No,
overexert yourself because that's not comfortable.
I like to sip half my wine, have some
Yeah,
dinner, then leave. No.
yeah,
No,
like
but, the second date you can like shake things up, I think. That's what I
yeah.
think.
And it's also like even in the first couple dates, I don't think that there's a reason to do something where you're going to get like really overly physically exerted, right? Because you might not, some people might not feel comfortable with that. Like you might not, you don't want to go on like a hike and it's really hot outside or something, and then you're like sweating and you don't feel comfortable. I
I
don't
know.
know. It just doesn't seem like a
No,
good vibe to
hey,
me.
but we do have a good question, and I've been staring at it, so I want to get to this because I think you're going to be good to answer this. How can you tell? Sydney's saying, how can you tell if a guy is taking the lead versus being controlling? I love
Yeah.
that. Fielding that to you, Evan.
Yeah, you would know that if he's open to your feedback on things. Like controlling would be the controlling would say like he's saying where to go and what to do. And if you say I'm not a big fan of that, he's like I don't care. You know what I mean? Like if you've gone on a couple dates. I think like taking the lead would be like, hey, like let's go to XYZ at, at whatever o'clock. Like, is that cool with you? Like that's being assumptive, that's being assertive. But I think being controlling would be like she says with the Dave and Buster's thing, like I'm not a huge fan of Dave and Buster's. I maybe we should go somewhere else. And he's like, no, we're going to Dave and Buster's. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Or I think a therapist told me years ago, and I never forgot this, that if you tell somebody, and this goes for friends or romantic partners, but if you tell somebody no once and they ignore your no, then they're just trying to control and manipulate you at that point. And so I think
Yeah.
that's the difference.
Yeah, I would agree.
So make sure you guys are sharing and liking. Haley's reminding me to say this, okay, Evan, because I'm not good about this. Okay, a bike is going to turn into a backboneless chicken nugget. Oh, a hike. A hike is going to turn you into a backbone chicken nugget. They get dark around here, Evan. They get
Oh
dark.
my
All right,
God.
guys, tell us your name. Tell us your question. You've got two experts right here, and if you're not asking questions, you're just missing the boat.
Let's
Hiking is,
see.
I know, I would say hiking is just not a good, well, it's definitely not a good first date, but I personally, I'm just not into hikes anyway. All right. If you can't even agree on a first date, how will you problem solve later? So that's kind of what I think too. I think it is a bit telling. I think it's deleted vibes. All right, Evan, do you see any questions or just a bunch of fired up women in your words?
I see a lot of different comments and it's crazy. Like we have a really split audience on who thinks like what activities are good for the first date, which I kind of like. It just goes to show that everybody has different preferences. Like everybody there's not like there are definitely expectations in the first date, but I think everybody enjoys different things.
I'm changing up my glasses.
Um,
How do
Jojo said dinner and activities perfect.
how do you tell if someone is not over their ex, and if it's been a year or more, that is that an issue? Do you see that?
How long has it been?
How do you tell if someone is not over their ex, and if it's been a year or more, is that an issue?
Well, I think if it's been over a year, well, okay, let me take a step back. One thing that I talk to my clients about a lot, and I've made some videos on this before, is it is actually important to understand the dynamic of who broke up with who. Because I have found a lot of times that if somebody got broken up with and they have not processed that correctly, they still might be invested in that person if they were to want to come back, right? Because a lot of times, like somebody's ex will come back that like hurt them or wronged them, and because they have trauma around that ex, they're more prone to, picking up the phone, texting them back, being interested. But a lot of times when these exes are coming back, they're just coming back for control. They're not really coming back because they're invested in reinvestigating a relationship. So I think if the person got broken up with, there might be a higher likelihood that they would entertain a conversation with them. But again, that's not a guarantee. But I would say more so if it's been a year, that's a good amount of time. So really, I guess you have to ask yourself: is that person still a part of their life? Like, do they still talk to that person? Do they still
That's
bring them
true.
up? Do they still associate with them? I guess is what I would ask.
Because I believe, listen, when you break up, you need to make a clean break. There's no sense in being friends or, and I think that you can be friends, but it's going to take time. You both need to have moved on. And as they say, a lot of other experts have said as well, that you need to have been in relationships with other people and then perhaps you can be friends. But there's no way to break up when you were romantic yesterday and now just suddenly become friends. So I agree with you. It depends on, are they talking about them? Are they actively still like somehow connected to them? Then that would tell me they're not over it. Now, this is a good question. How do you leave a date kindly when you aren't interested in them?
Okay, and this kind of goes back to the wine thing that I brought up earlier.
Yep.
A wine date with a secondary activity after gives you the ability to pivot, which is why I don't always say go for dinner on the first date. Like some people say, if I say don't go for dinner on the first date, then I'm some low investment bum or something. Like I can't afford dinner. It's not about somebody who's a stranger. Maybe you haven't FaceTime them, you met them, through a service or through it's about if you're meeting somebody who's a stranger, maybe a dating app, like you don't know them. It might not make sense to commit to a 2.5 hour dinner, but also you don't want to do something really, really low effort, right? If you're interested in them. So that's why I think, the wine thing is a potential opportunity. So maybe you have a glass of wine and you're not feeling it and you don't have a second glass of wine and then you just talk for 10, 15, 20 more minutes and then you say like it's time to roll. So that's I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about that exactly. I mean, listen, I understand. Um, I think that, yeah, let me see. God, I have to think about this for a minute because I like to give a good answer. But I do think that I think that people could be able, usually people should be able to sit through a glass of wine or two with somebody because I just, that's why pre-qualifying on a call or like you said, a FaceTime is so important. Never skip that step. Never skip that pre-qualifying step. And sometimes guys will go from messaging on the app to trying right then and there to lock you down into a plan. But and even if they are suggesting a plan, you say, oh, yeah, well, let's just do a call though first and we'll confirm the plan or we'll talk about the plan or whatever. Because I think that hopefully, if you've pre qualified them correctly, that when you get to the date, you won't have to politely excuse yourself. Hopefully, it won't be a horror show.
Yeah. And you'll have things to talk about too, because you
And
kind
don't
of know each other.
Right. And don't overlook the red flags on the call. Like you're looking for the red flags. And if there's things where you're like, oh, he sounded weird or he was whatever it is, then just don't go on the date. Okay. All right. 46 new messages. Let's see. I think it's should women start approaching men? I feel males are not brave enough these days to start a conversation. They're talking about in real life, Evan.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I would say ultimately what I've noticed is most women are not going to like shoot their shot and just go up and approach a guy like a stranger. I mean, some women definitely will. I think it's more so about putting yourself in the position for the guy to be able to come up and approach you if you can, if that's possible. But I will say that if a guy is interested in you and you approach him and have a conversation and he's interested in you, he will be ecstatic. Like he will be so happy that you did that. If he's not interested in you, he's not interested in you. He's not feeling it. But it's not that he's not feeling it because you approached. He's not feeling it because he's
Right.
not into you.
Or he's in
So
a
if a guy
relationship
is into you,
or he's not available. You know what I mean? There's that too.
yeah. So if he likes you and you approach him, he will be so happy. And a smart guy will see that, and then he'll step in and take the lead and make a conversation, get your phone number, and plan a date. So I
Would
think
you do
like
that?
say that again.
Would you do that in real life if, a cute girl, like, let me ask you, in real life, you're at Starbucks, you're in line at Starbucks, and there's a really cute girl neck front of you, behind you in line. All right. Uh, what would you do?
I would absolutely start a conversation with her.
You
But I
would.
think, but I think to that comment, like most people are not brave or confident. I don't think a lot of men will do that, which in my
Right.
videos, I have to kind of empower men to do that because a connection, I'll give an example of this. If a woman matches with a guy on a dating app, or maybe he follows her on Instagram and they kind of are talking back and forth digitally, but they've never met. If she meets a guy in person who she likes, that digital guy, he's gone because there's an
Right.
immediate, like instant
For sure.
connection, and he matters way more than the guy who she's been talking to a little bit online. So I think if you're a guy and you can be bold and you know a woman that'd be interested in you, approach, have a conversation, see how it goes, because you're most definitely going to be put way above the guys who are just like the keyboard guys.
But here, I'm going to stop you though. You're in line at Starbucks. You've started talking to the girl, or she struck up
Yeah.
the conversation with you. Now it's
Yeah.
Starbucks. It's a short line. So there's not that much you can say in a short amount of time. But you like her. Are you going to say to this girl, "Oh, can I get your number?"
Absolutely.
You will.
100%.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm just checking. I know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think another good way that women can handle it, if they're talking to this cute guy, whether they struck up the conversation or whether you did, but I do think sometimes women do need to be more proactive because I think a lot of guys are afraid these days because of the Me Too and a lot of things they just don't know and they don't want to be that weird creeper guy. So I do think if a woman is going to strike up the conversation, if she likes him, she should go for it and see what happens. And I saw another good TikTok video and I liked that girl's advice where she said, ask him to hold something, or ask him for something, like the time, or oh, can you hold my drink for me while I get something? Like, kind of engage with him that way and strike up a conversation. But last but not least, I think one of my favorite tips of that's my own tip is that when you're like introducing yourself to somebody and you like them, you should give your first and last name, your first and your last name, because if you're interested, you're going to go then, if you didn't do the number exchange because it was awkward for some reason, you're going to go and look them up on social media. And if you're interested, you're going to send them a follow-up message. So I think instead of getting in the habit of just giving somebody your first name, if you're interested in them, you should always make a habit of saying, "Hi, I'm Gina Hendrix. Nice to meet you. Hi," you know what I mean? And that way people can go and look you up, and then that's how you can follow up with each other.
Granted, the social profiles are good, which is a totally different topic of conversation. Like if you're somebody who's maybe your Instagram, or I don't know, I don't want to say LinkedIn necessarily, maybe your Instagram is not great because I coach a lot of guys, and I think getting their social profiles like updated and optimized is a really big piece. So
I
I
agree.
think like because of course, like you ladies know in the comments here, that you're clicking on these guys' following list on Instagram, and you're scrolling through those, and you're seeing who he follows. So if you're a guy paying attention to this live, make sure you got your stuff cleaned up,
So
right? Like
Steve,
your pictures are
yeah.
good. You're not following a
Hey,
bunch of half naked women on the internet. Like,
hey, listen, that goes for the women too. There's women who need to clean up their Instagram as well, that for various reasons. Either it's all
yeah,
ass everywhere or they just have hideous, like it's not happening photos. All right. So Steve says, what if that person is a stalker? Well, Steve, what I'm proposing is if you're interested in that person anyway, and if you're not going to give them your number, then giving them your first and last name is an alternative to giving them your number. So if you liked them anyway, you wouldn't know whether they were a stalker or not. This is about how you can solve the problem if you want to connect with this person. All right. We all know
Siren
that
says
the
we are
stalker.
investigators.
Say it again.
Siren says we are investigators. Yes, you
Yes,
are.
we are. Okay, what is the best way to meet someone without using a dating app or going out to meet people? Well,
Hire Gina.
prison pen pal, what can I say?
Hire
Evan?
her. That's how.
No. They don't want to leave their house. They don't want to leave their house.
Good
I guess
luck.
get on the internet and find a man that's in prison and just chat with him. I don't know because he can't go anywhere either. That's what I would say.
Pen pals.
Um, right. So, Janine, if you don't want to use your name or divulge your social media info, then you would have to have the confidence to say, "Hey, by the way, here's my number." But it's like I'm saying to you guys, if you meet somebody in real life and he doesn't ask for your number and you don't want to give your number, but you want to meet somebody in real life, like how are you going to connect after you've just met them in the line at Starbucks if you don't give them a way to find you after the fact? Okay. So anyway, like this, send us roses, send us thumbs up, give us love, share it, whatever you do out there. Um, Okay, so we'll take we got on here a little late. We'll go to about 10 after. Are you cool with that? 15 more
Let's
minutes?
do it.
All right, so get your questions going because you got us here. So do you see any questions? Oh, yes, this is a question. I see it. I'm a younger pensioner and don't want to admit I don't currently have a job. Makes me seem boring. All right, I'm going to field this question, Evan, because you're a young buck here, and I'm more towards that AARPA, as much as I hate to say that. So here's what I would say. I dealt with somebody like that's kind of in this boat, and I think that talk about your hobbies, talk about things you're passionate about. So hopefully you are doing something, even if you're not actually working a job. But you're doing. I think anybody at any age should be pursuing some sort of passion, because when you stop pursuing a passion you will be boring as f, you know what I'm saying? So I think that you talk about your passion. So if I wasn't working I would say, I'm passionate about painting and volunteering and blah blah, and I would just kind of shift the focus, because I think as long as people feel like you're passionately doing something, that that kind of solves that problem. All right. All right. You pick a question, Evan. Do you see one?
All right, let's see. Lorelei said, I think prison inmates have more prospects than I do right now.
And that could be. They
Let's
are quite
see.
popular, those dudes.
All right, let's see.
Okay.
So
So
this is more of a
go ahead.
comment, but I think it's one that's good to address. Janine says, I had to delete online dating because too many guys are just looking for hookups. I think,
How I
well,
feel about it. I know how I feel about it. How do you feel about it, Evan?
statistically, men are looking for hookups on dating apps more than women, statistically. Now, it doesn't mean that all men are, right? But I think it's again to what you said earlier, Gina. It's really important to talk to somebody on the phone or have a FaceTime with them before you go on a real date, get a feel of them. And then, I don't know, might be an unpopular opinion alert here, but wait a little bit of time before you sleep with somebody. Shoot me, murder me in the comments. I get it. But I think it makes a little bit more sense to wait and see how he reacts to having you wait. Get angry at me, come out with the pitchforks. I get it. But like my point is, it makes more sense to make a guy wait because you see what his actions are. Like if you say you want to wait and you see if he sticks around and has like is he valuing the relationship more than just hooking up. So that's my feedback on that. I will die on that hill. People might try to kill me on that hill, but I will die on that hill. I don't care.
There's some stuff going on here. Let's see here. Who pays for the first date is an un-American question to ask because somebody else had asked us who should pay on the first date. Evan, who should pay on the first date?
Now the guy's going to pay on the first date.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, somebody said how soon after getting, let's see, after getting, I think after getting broken up with, should you meet first? This is a great question.
Um, I would say if you are broken up and you're dead set on moving on and seeing things that they post online, hearing from them, communicating with them will make it harder for you to heal, then block them.
Yeah, I think maybe what this person is saying is they were the person that got broken up with, and they're and they're kind of because so I think that what you're hoping for is like that person will change their mind or come back around. But I agree with Evan that the sooner you can start healing, because the thing is, by the time somebody breaks up with you, they've already started the healing process. So when somebody finally pulls that band-aid off and they say, we're done, it's been a month or maybe more that they've resolved this in their head. You're just finding out now, but they're way ahead of you in the healing process. They've already processed it. They've left way before they told you mentally. And so, yeah, it's the best thing you can do is block them and move on. I totally agree. All right. What else we got here? Evan, you would be a great match with somebody they're trying to match you with.
Oh,
uh,
jeez.
Dates should be fun. Be in your feminine. What are they saying here? Okay, do you see a question? Because when they start talking with each other, Evan, it confuses the hell out
Yeah,
of
we
me.
need we need some more good questions. The next good
We need
question
some good
will get
questions.
asked.
You can do each
I
other,
like the
people.
I
You
like
got
the
us.
comments,
All right, what'd you say, Evan?
but we
So,
need I said I like the comments. We just need questions though.
What's going on here? Well, what's going on here is you have me, who's been a matchmaker since 2008, and you have Evan, who is been in the biz for a while as a relationship coach and expert. And I found him on TikTok, and I love his content. And here we are tonight answering your questions. That's what's up. All right, we're going to take like three more questions. But if you don't have questions, we're going to end the live because we're here to answer questions. Um, Okay. And if we've missed your question, then just ask us again because sometimes things roll by and we miss it. All right. Okay, here we got something. I want someone my equal, but some men are afraid when they see that I have my shit together. Do you believe that's true, Evan? Do you believe that men are afraid when a woman has her shit together?
Some, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Some, because I think as a society, we've kind of, we've told men that to a degree that men have to be the providers, men have to be the breadwinners, all these different things. And whether that's true in today's day and age is debatable. But I think that society has perpetuated that belief for men. So men will get insecure if a woman is outperforming them, to say. So I think that that's definitely part of it. Definitely. I think that there are a good amount of men that feel that way. I don't think he's like scared of her as like a person. Like he's not like physically intimidated, most likely. But I think that
Door and kill him? No, not like that.
yeah, he's not worried about that. I hope not.
No.
But I do think that there are definitely men that are threatened by that.
But the thing is, usually the men that are threatened by that are the men who are either want a woman to be small, and I don't mean in stature, just a small person with no voice, or a man who's also not accomplished. Because men who are accomplished and they want, a woman who, again, in my business, they want a woman who's accomplished. So I think the ones who are intimidated just are the ones that aren't meant for you, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, we've gotten a lot of things going by here. How do I tell if my friends how do I tell my friends I want a wealthy man I don't want to support without being a gold digger? How do I tell my friends I want a wealthy man? Well, I don't know why are you telling your friends? I don't understand. Do you understand the question?
I think it's like, how do I not be judged for saying I want a man who's well off, essentially? I think it's just something you don't need to externalize. Just pursue what you want, keep it to yourself.
Right. You don't need to explain yourself to anybody.
Yeah.
What are most men looking for in a woman, Evan?
Uh, I can't answer that. That's too much of a catch-all question. It would be too hard for me to answer that, honestly.
But no, hold on. I'm gonna put your feet to the fire here,
Huh.
and I'm gonna put your feet to the fire here. I think that there are some occasional commonalities, like when you talk to guys or you're coaching clients and all this stuff. There has to be because I can tell you there's a few certain personality traits that are always go tos.
I
Rattle off
think that
a few words.
the bottom line is I think there needs to be polarity and people's personalities need to complement one another. That's really the only easy way I can answer that. In all reality, although the billionaire who's super successful might want a woman who is also a very accomplished person, I think if they have competing personalities, it will not work. So if it takes two people, the same aggressive personality to get successful in that business, I think that there's a lot of potential to be a lot of arguments in that relationship. But I also don't think you want an imbalance where you have somebody who has all the power and you have somebody who's just a doormat. So it's like it's a fine balance. But it's really hard for me to say like what men specifically want. I would say the majority of men would want a woman who's more, nurturing, who is somebody who's more sensitive, more sweet, more positive. I
There
would
you go.
say,
There you
shoot
go.
me, kill me on the hill for making a generalization, as many people will. I
You're
think
100.
most men want that.
You're 100% right. I was just waiting for you to spit it out.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's like that's the thing. It's like not all men, not all women. People get triggered. You know what I mean?
well, that's their problem. But if they show up here and they're asking for the truth, this for me is the place for them to get the truth. Now they can hate the truth, they can tell the
Yeah.
truth, fuck off. But you know what? We're giving them the truth, and I do find that same thing with men. They really want somebody who is sweet and kind and like Haley, who you've dealt with, who's my social media girl, who's doing the question. She is like a beautiful girl, 25, already married. Her husband's a baseball player and all these great things. But one thing, and she's got her own business and she's a businesswoman. But you know what? She's also, she's so sweet. She's so sweet. I'm like, Haley,
Yeah.
you got to be a little less sweet. But no. So I do think that there is a lot to say about, and as we get older, we get a little more hardened, we get a little more jaded. And I think though, if we can start laughing at ourselves a little more and being a little lighter, well, not saying dumb it down at all, but just
Yeah.
not so hard and rigid and you know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of comments talking about just like attraction, physical attraction. Oh, absolutely. That's number one. Hands down.
Yeah, yeah,
Men want to be physically attracted to a woman. That is the most important thing for them. Hands
yeah.
down, no debate in my mind. And I think everybody in the comment section agrees with that. A man will put up with a lot of bullshit from a woman if he's super attracted to her. So, like, my point, and I would ask the guy who was a billionaire earlier, maybe it's not so much the case because he's a billionaire. He might be able to get whoever he wants. You put a girl in front of him who's 10 out of 10, some of this checklist that he's got might dwindle a little bit. So that's, I don't know.
Honestly,
That's what I've seen.
no, listen, Evan, I've had some Victoria's Secret models in my database, and my guys will say, nope, you're just a Victoria's Secret model. Oh my God. Yes. I cannot tell you. Sometimes I can't even, like, literally, if I'm going to show you privately, one girl in particular, and they'll say, no, like, what are her other accomplishments? I'm like, are you
Yeah.
insane? So it's, but yeah, so yeah, they want a little more than that, but they absolutely still, like, they're not going to let me set them up with a woman if I say, oh my God, she's president of her company and she's, makes 2 million a year, if she's also not super beautiful, like if he's not attracted to her. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed, especially if that guy who's really successful has just seen who's seen like a lot of and dated a lot of very attractive women. Like he's looking for something
Right,
deeper than that,
right, for sure.
which
Now
is I think the right thing. You shouldn't just be dating somebody for their physical appearance.
right. Now somebody, right. So when people do show up and they do are pickier, while it's a pain in my ass, it actually tells me that they are looking for more of a substantial partner, to be honest with you. Women who fill out
Right.
profiles and they'll say in the profile, they don't care what ethnicity the guy is. They don't care how old he is. They don't care how tall he is. They don't care about any of the details of the dude. To me, that is just such a huge red flag, because the pickier people are, the more I trust their intentions. Now, there was a guy, Steve, he circled back and he asked a question, and it's gone by, but I remembered it, which is a shock, but I did. He wanted to know, Evan, he said he had dated a narcissist. How do you recover after you've dated a narcissist and they've basically ruined your life?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important part there is to understand that if somebody, well, first off, if they had like that clinical diagnosis that they really had that like personality disorder, you have to understand that like the reality that that person put you in was not your fault. Like you're never going to be good enough for somebody that has that problem or has those standards or has to control you like that. So although that person made you feel like less than, it's not your fault because you cannot control somebody who is unwell like that, who's really trying to hurt you and control you. So, I mean, that's kind of like the easier answer, but it's going to take some time. It's probably going to take some therapy to get through those things. But again, like it is not your fault. Like if somebody treats you that poorly and just like has to manipulate you and control you, because that's what makes them feel better. That's not a you problem. That's a them problem.
How do you come back from that though? Like when, I mean, granted, I have my own theories, but you're my guest here tonight, so I will pick your brain. Everybody, some people have said we're great and that we should do more. Well, we probably will do more. So we got young and old, yin and yang, man and woman.
I
Anyway,
like it.
so, but I do think like that, it is unfortunate that whether somebody has been cheated on or they've had somebody who stole their money or took advantage of them or just, really dismantled them emotionally. I mean, yeah, where would you say, and I'll come up with my own thing, but where would you say is the first place somebody should start to recover?
Well, I mean, you can't isolate yourself. That's the most important part. You have to make sure that you do not isolate yourself and you keep in touch with your friends and family. And then you have to go to therapy, like whatever
Yep.
type of therapy that is. And I think it's important, like after something like that happens, to build up. And I know like a lot of people talk about different things with this, but I think it's important to start to make sure that you develop like good friendships and good relationships with people like of the opposite sex if you're a heterosexual person to like reinstill your faith and confidence in them, right? Because like a man or a woman could go through like a terrible experience that really jades them about dating. And I think it's important to understand that you can rebuild that trust and confidence by becoming close friends with people or getting to know people and not just jumping right back into dating, and like getting their opinion and feedback on things that happen. But it's not going to happen overnight and it's not going to be easy.
And I honestly think, the more if you go through life and you let that person and you're dragging what happened with that person into your future, they're still winning at that point. Do you know what I mean? Like you're letting them dictate your future. Now they may be part of your past, but they do not have to be part of your future. And yes, I agree with therapy and surrounding yourself with like a good network of, maybe there's even like, here might be a good, this might be a good idea, maybe a support group where it's mixed though. I'm sure there's got to be something where that it's mixed genders, so that then you are surrounded by women who are supportive and men who are supportive, so you're seeing the other side in a therapy atmosphere. Because sometimes, listen, guys will act like they want to be friends and they really don't, like in the real world.
Yeah.
It might be hard to find a guy friend. But in a therapy group, if it's co-ed, that might be a really good way. That might be a really good way. I got to put my glasses on. All right. So we're over time. We'll take one last question, and then you can tell them they can find you here. They know performance potential. And oh, I do want to say before we take our last question, I'm really, really trying to help the men. So men, I'm going to give you guys free profile assessments because you need the help. So if you go to my website, ginahendrix.com/men. You can fill out a profile for me. This is for the guys. And then I'll follow up with you and I will tell you how I feel about your profile and I'll try to give you some pointers. But you got to go to my website, the guys. And if you know a man that needs help, God bless him, please send him there, ginahendrix.com/men, and get him to fill out a profile. And I'll try to sprinkle some magic on his situation. All right. All right. Take the last question, Evan, and then we're out.
Okay, let's see. Why are younger men going after older women?
This is a
I haven't fielded
for
I
our
haven't
end, right, Evan?
I haven't fielded this question too many times. Um, Somebody said
Right?
mommy issues, which I think that that's like there probably is a contingent of men that feel that way, that like go after a woman like almost as this mother figure because maybe they didn't have that. So I think that's part of it. But I do also think that there are men out there that are maybe in like, I mean, it could be anywhere mid 20s or mid 30s, whatever. And maybe the women that are their age are just not mature. Like I know some guys who are in like their mid 20s, like lower 20s, and the women that they're talking to are just, well, I don't want non-committal, but they don't like have their head on straight. From what I've talked to from some of these guys that will date 3 or 4 to 5 years older, but I don't really feel that question a whole lot, honestly.
So here's what I'm going to say. All right. And as we wrap this up, you guys can always email me at teamgina@ginahendrix.com if you want to reach me. But here's what I'm going to say. I find, and again, the honest truth is that the only reason really, I mean, you mentioned some things that could possibly be the truth, but I find that the reason any younger guy is going to want to date an older woman is either one or two reasons. Either, and you know what I'm going to say, and I know you know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say. Um, One of them is usually she'll have more than he does, even if she's not rich. But if she has a nice house or a nicer car, just something a little more than he does, there's that reason, because you have more than they do, and that's interesting to them. Or sex. It's sex. They just want to. They see it a bit as low hanging fruit, and I hate to say that. And Evan, I know you know what I'm saying, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
There, there's some kind of novelty to it for sure,
Yeah.
for some
Well,
guys.
they think the younger guys think they're the novelty, so they'll be able to bed, the women that much quicker, because these dudes go, oh, I'm 29, I'm gonna get this lady in the sack. She's gonna, you know what I mean? So anyway, those are my opinions. But anyway, so you're still looking at questions, huh, Evan?
Yeah,
Do you
I'm
want to do
still reading
a
them.
question? Do one.
I
Fine.
saw one earlier and it disappeared. Like I see good ones and then it's like it'll scroll and I'll be like, who said that?
Well, just scroll back up real quick. Look up real quick and see if you see it.
Let's see.
All right, we're gonna a couple more questions here. It gets addicting. I know these people don't want to let you get away once you're here.
Come on, where did it go?
So give us likes. Make sure you share. Make sure you follow Evan. Make sure you follow me. Don't
Yeah,
forget.
somebody said that they're still recovering from like that narcissistic relationship after 6 years. It takes a long time. Like
Yeah.
it can really mess with people's confidence as they're trying to get back into dating. That's why I think it's really important to, like, you can't rush back into it, right? Like especially sometimes people will rush back into dating because they feel lonely, or maybe they
Right.
want to get their confidence back up, or they get back on dating apps because they want to get their confidence back up. But in reality, it's not serving anybody, you know?
So somebody asked a good question. Said, Evan, would you date an older woman?
Yeah, why not? I would as long as she's, of course I'm attracted to her. She has her life together. I think, our personalities complement. She's just, like you said, a sweet person. I think that would be nice. Somebody who's positive and somebody who's intelligent. I think intelligence is super important. You need to be able to have like the same level of conversations between two people and like be interested outside of just looks, or it would just fade fast.
All right, we're going to take a couple more questions. So if you want us to take a couple more questions, you got to send us likes and the flowers and the hearts. Let us know you appreciate us. And that's a message from Haley reminding me to tell you guys that. Okay, 4 years here. Boy, a lot of narcissists running rampant. Last chance to send likes and roses to us. I'm so glad you guys have enjoyed it. How much emphasis should we put on sharing similar interests with a partner?
I don't know. I mean, you'll figure that out over time. Like,
Okay, I'm going to field this question as a matchmaker, Evan. I would say, in my opinion, I would say the more things you have in common, the better it is for a long-term sustainable relationship. Because if like I've lived with a surfer before, and then they call it being a surf widow, right? So it's like he was always surfing, and I didn't surf. So the more things you guys have in common and you can do together, I think, and I think you can still do them independently. But like if he golfs and you can golf together, great. And if you can golf separately, great. But the more things you guys do have in common, if you're vegan, I think you should be with the vegan. Evan, you must have seen a question you liked just then.
no, I was laughing at the golf thing because I hear that all the time. I'll hear that all the time. Women will be like, "Yeah, he went and golfed like 2 rounds today. I didn't see him all day." I hear that all the time.
Right. And sometimes I think probably men do that so that they can get away. They have something they do that the woman doesn't. But, I honestly think that a happy, cohesive couple should be doing the majority of things together, really.
I like this
Uh,
question.
yeah.
I've seen Micah put in a lot of questions. Says, Evan, do
Yeah.
you agree with Andrew Tate? No, I've made multiple response videos to people who back Andrew Tate. So I think people, for some reason, because earlier I made a comment about how I think the man should like lead and take the lead on picking the dates and be decisive. That people think I'm like an Andrew Tate follower, but no, I've made response videos to Andrew Tate, and I think that young men who are actually looking for a relationship are not going to do very well if they listen to him. So, so I don't know.
What,
It's interesting. Like, don't put me in a box. Like, because I'm a guy with an opinion, like, don't put me in a box and assume that I would follow like a certain person and believe them, because I think his content's pretty damaging, especially for young guys. He's not a good role model.
Somebody's asking me to ask you something. Gina, please ask him that lately we women feel misogyny in Evan's behavior. What's up with him? They feel misogyny in you? What in the world?
No, I hope not.
I mean, what? So here's the thing. Don't throw out something generic, Melody, because I didn't even know that was her question when I was reading it till I got to that part. Sorry. But you know what? It's like, why don't you define? I think because we throw out these terms, what is misogynistic that he said? I would just be so curious. While we answer the next thing, which is what's the odds of true relationship between older women with younger guys? I mean, listen, all I have to say is how did it work out for Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher? And we'll leave it at that. And Evan, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? Because you're a spring chicken. How long till we get intimate with our date so they look at you wait. Hold on. Do you see this? Evan, are you there? Evan, are you there? Are you frozen? You guys are still here with me, right? All right. How long till we get intimate with our date so they look at you serious? I guess more than, I mean, you shouldn't sleep with anybody until you have a commitment if you're looking for a commitment. I think, yeah, he's gone. Maybe he's going to come back. I'll give him a second, see if he comes back. If he doesn't, I'll just wrap this up because we've been putting him through the ringer with questions. Um,
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
here we go. Great, you're back. So Melody is saying that you totally had different thoughts than I did while attacking the commenters. I don't agree with that. See, but this is where, and that's fine. Listen, everybody can have their own opinion, but here's the thing. I think all of us as people need to go through the world with open minds. And so I love having people that I disagree with. I love talking, but although Evan and I agree with a lot of things with each other, but I love different opinions. And that's why I think when you go on dates, you need to practice being able to have discussions with people that you might not agree with. Because I think we get so rigid and thinking that people need to be a certain way. And that is so boring. That is so boring. All right, Evan, what do you want to do? You want to take a couple more questions? Or you want to wrap it up? It's your choice.
Let's do one more good question.
Okay, great. So somebody give us likes and hearts and
Okay.
questions.
Well, okay, we'll end on this one because this is always a controversial one. How long, I don't know if you address this one, but how long till we get intimate with our date so they look at you seriously? I guess moral values.
I did
The answer to this question,
while you were frozen, but you can give your perspective.
yeah, yeah. So I think ultimately it comes down to whenever the woman is comfortable sleeping with the guy. Like, of course, like if you're comfortable sleeping with them after 2 or 3 dates, you can do that. But I will say that in my experience, like talking to men, being a guy, coaching guys, coaching women, if you can make that guy wait, I don't want to put like an arbitrary date on it, but if you can make him wait like a month, like as you're realizing that he's moving towards commitment. Like it doesn't, let's say like a month it happens, like go ahead, but it's moving towards commitment. You've gone on 3 or 4 dates, you realize that he's taking you seriously, he's picking the place, he's making plans, he's texting you first, he's showing interest, he's showing intent, you're comfortable with him, then like maybe you escalate a little bit and maybe you don't actually do it because you want to see his response to that. Does he get angry? Does he get pushy? Does he get insecure? And like see how like he reacts. If you're like, I don't know if I want to do it right now, I want to wait because you really want to see like, does he value you? Is he willing to wait? So it's not necessarily just about waiting because you have to wait. It's about waiting to really see what his intent is like when you say you want to wait because you want to see how seriously he
True.
takes you.
Now that's true because if you tell a guy you want to wait and he doesn't, then that tells you everything you need to know. I think that
Yeah.
tells you everything you need to know. And I think for women, what I tell them usually, Evan, because I think a lot of times, men don't have sex for the same reason women do. Women usually have sex to make an investment towards moving the relationship along, whereas men don't have sex for that same reason. So I think that when a woman chooses to have sex, she needs to in her mind be clear, like if that guy never calls her again, is she going to be okay with it? And if she's not going to be okay with it, then she needs to wait to have sex until she knows that she's in an actual relationship.
Yeah. I
Or
would
even,
agree. I think it's the best. I think it's the safest bet for sure.
and I don't think it gets better than that. I think we'll end that right now on that high note.
That's a
You're
good question.
adorable. You're adorable. And this has been so fun, you guys. So you can follow Evan. You can follow me. I'm here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to do more stuff together, Evan, okay? In the
Let's do
future.
it. Let's go live again.
Okay, good, good. All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Gina. See ya.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you.